Our next driver of change is Methil Devika, a Mohiniattam exponent. She sees dance as a tool to write with her body, and she wants her classical dance to be understood and accessible to all. Devika does so by sticking to tradition and yet finding ways of expanding the movement vocabulary. This journey has taken her to new spaces, has seen her incorporate new hand gestures of sign language into the idiom, and go deep into the academics by being a postdoctoral fellow and also a former senior research associate at IIST at ISRO, where she helped devise an arts-oriented advanced science project. Before I call her on stage, I would like you to see a teaser of her dance film called Crossover, which she actually created and choreographed for the deaf people. Let's extend a warm welcome to Methil Devika. Our second artist for the evening, and rightfully so, barefoot as well. Devika ji, I think we all want to know what prompted you to take the Mohiniattam dance and say that I want this to be accessible to an audience that you feel is being alienated. You reached out to the hearing impaired people. You want to tell me how did that realization came in and what drove it? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I think I am very excited about what I dance, and I always like to share that excitement with my audience also. So think about an audience who can't hear and you dance in front of them. So I went on a Spick Mackey performance concert, and I had a couple of students from the deaf and hard of hearing community. They were so keen on knowing what I was trying to do, but they just couldn't understand. And then I realized that perhaps, I must try and learn their gestural language, the sign language, which is a natural language, and try and incorporate it in my work, because I think it is so important that you actually break the fifth wall. I always say when I learned that, they stopped being disabled, they became able. So, and that's the change you create when you take a step like that.
So we know that dance already has hastamudras, many of them. If I could just quickly ask you to demonstrate, like, in simple sign language, how would you, emote something or suggest something and that they understood? Because we have hastamudras.
Yeah, so theirs is a natural sign language. The thing about Mohiniattam is our aesthetic sign language is also, unlike Bharatanatyam or Kathak, is actually transcriptional. You can actually transcribe from the text. It has syntax. So what I did was at strategic points, wherever I was narrating a story, at strategic points I added their sign language and took them to our sign language. So what you see there are people from the deaf and hard of hearing community telling me that they're seeing something like this for the first time. And I asked them, what sound do you hear when I dance? And that girl says, my heart beats and I can hear, and I get a lot of emotions. So what happens is something that is silent actually generates a lot of music. And also the fact that our knowledge systems do have these kind of, we have gestural languages that are not only just aesthetic, but they can actually act as natural sign language.
Great. I think it's not every day that you hear a classical dancer has gone to ISRO. I know you went to IIST. Tell us a little bit about what were you able to impart their, were you able to teach them how to dance, or was this,
No.
or was it telling them that, you know what, this is a rich heritage that we have, let's mix it a little bit with science and see what it can come up
mix,
with?
because there are many areas that I worked in. I worked in the Department of Sociology and the Department of Avionics. We were looking at something, for me, as boring as human-computer interaction and incorporating science there. But for me, what was exciting was creating an astronomical sign language.
Yeah. Okay, like can you elaborate on this? What is this?
Classified information. Yeah, but then, okay, let us look at something. I'll slightly go to another branch of what I did was take learning, people with spatial, temporal learning issues, or people with learning issues. So what I did was bring fundamental concepts of science and astronomy. And for example, we have the Navagrahas, right? But then they are basically based on the geocentric model. I took a very realistic approach, which is the heliocentric model. And based on that, the fundamental features of all the planets, right? I created a sign language for that. So that the children it becomes very easy for children to understand when it is done through spatial temporal learning. This is just one part of it. But of course, for the zero gravity environment, I think that was where my contribution was.
That's incredible. I think another thing that I know that's very personal to you is sort of taking dance to different spaces. And before I get on to that topic, I would like the audience just to see the next clip of Devika ji's. Yeah. That looks great. You want to tell us, Devika ji, ki Stree Preksha, this is not where you usually see dance performances. You see them on a stage under lights with audiences. What prompted you to take this, and where is this happening? Yeah, can you
This
tell?
was done during COVID, so dancers were deprived of stages, and I thought we were so dependent on organizers, and I wanted to co-create something and with the temple, and I realized this was done impromptu basically. It was two of the singers, I was seeing them for the first time that day. And but I realized that unconventional spaces, the temple seems like a conventional space, but no, it is quite unconventional because I'm not dancing like the earlier. It's not like the dance of the Dasis or anything. I did a work vis-a-vis the architecture, and that came just suddenly. So basically, from self-expression to spatial expression, what happens when you take your art to different spaces, not just temples. I think uncertainties of that space, it kind of dictates what you need to do. And I see them not as challenges, but as opportunities to innovate. Yeah.
So are you curious now to take the Indian classical dance to more innovative spaces? Temple is where we started out. You've already made it accessible.
No, temple is a tantric installation site with much more challenges than you will find anywhere else. To make a work in a beach is very simple. To make a work in a mall is very simple. Not a temple.
Not in a temple?
No.
And,
right.
And any other space that you think the classical dance idiom can go?
Community space is where I took to the disability space. That's a space too. The term classical for me is also very dicey, if you ask me. Most often we've heard of our contemporaries or our peers saying it is only meant for for the enlightened, or they use the word prekshaka. For me, I kind of always begged to differ because I thought it was the limitation of the dancer. We talk about navarasas, right? Navarasas being the experience of the spectator, not what the dancer does on stage, by the way. What is the ninth rasa? Shanta. What is the sthai of Shanta? It's supposed to be sama. Sama means renunciation. According to scriptures or our dance text, it says renunciation from the worldly life or action. But sama most essentially means equal and equanimity. And if, the audience who see me, somebody sees me and says, oh, I don't understand dance, and either they're demeaning themselves or they're ridiculing the dancer. I don't want that to happen. So when you have an audience where you have both, a seasoned spectator and a new spectator understand what is happening. And it is not the prerogative of the dancer to make them understand always, but I think for a concert you should have one for somebody, right? For everybody. And that time, I remember when I did crossover at the International Film Festival, Mumbai and Goa, it screened there for the first time. They started the inclusive and accessibility segment for the first time in the festival, and I think that is a great change. And I remember they were blind, they were the deaf, and they were the abled. At a point, everybody understood everything.
That's incredible. That's truly incredible if Indian classical dance can transfer to these communities. I asked this question to Ustad Ji, Bahauddin Dagar Ji, and I'll ask you this as well, since we are talking about Virasat and Vikas. How do you see the Indian performing arts as being instrumental to the development of India? I think many people think, they are sort of being set back, set behind, not getting enough patronage. How significant do you see it in the scheme of things? Yeah.
I think first we have to consider the self. For me, dance has been transforming in the sense that we as human beings are not always, we are always evolving on a daily basis. As a dancer, I know that I have, above my underlying self, I have multiple personalities in the sense that I have multiple mental processes. What I think today is not what I think tomorrow. What I do today is not what I do tomorrow in my dance. And therefore, there is this kind of, you're kind of democratizing the complex version of yourself, right? And when you start doing that, you're also, when you take other people's compositions, other people's darshanas, whether it is Advaita, Vedanta, or whether it is, Nastika, or whether it is, the Buddhist philosophies, you actually learn to, even if you don't connect to them, you learn to respect. Right? And for me, this ability to move in and out of narratives has helped me understand that you need not connect or believe what you do, but you can actually respect the other person. Because knowledge as such is not absolute. Right? It's not the absolute truth. It keeps changing. And I think if one does that within, it is very simple to do that on a larger spectrum. Right? When you do that, your audience also understands.
I must tell you that Devika ji has not just been a great dancer, a choreographer. Last year, she took on a new role of acting. You did your Malayalam language debut. I think many people would have expected this should have been done sooner. Are you bitten by the acting bug? Is this something that you want to continue now? Anyways, all classical dancers are great abhinaya artists, so acting must come easily.
Yes, that's right.
Do you want to do more of it?
For that movie, it came easily. Not perhaps for everything else, it came in rather easily. It was a sweet role, and I think acting is acting whether on stage or on screen.
Great. I think we are all now waiting to watch Devika ji dance, and she's presenting something really special for the evening today. We'll just wait for the stage to clear up for a minute, and then maybe Devika ji can introduce what she'll be presenting.
Yeah, so actually I'm dancing with a car next to me for the first time. And
there's a first time for everything.
So I think whether it is Virasat or Vikas, we have to be discerning about both sometimes. So yeah, I'll do a work which is very, very, I think the motif is common to India, which is on bhadrakali, but the bhadrakali is not the very fierce bhadrakali that you see. She is very cheeky and she's very playful. This is composed, the lyrics are by a very famous social reformer of Kerala called Srinarayana Guru, by the name of Srinarayana Guru. And the music, and he was more, for me, his poetic brilliance was just something else. The music has been composed by T.M. Krishna, the orchestration is by myself, choreography by myself too. Here you find Bhadrakali, basically picking up skulls that she likes, and the poet actually describes her as somebody who creates, destroys, and maintains worlds with her eyebrows and her eyes. So it's kind of an abstract work, not much of explanation. It's an excerpt from the Bhadrakali Ashtakam. Thank you.
we'll give her 30 seconds and then we'll begin the audio. We can have the audio now.
श्रीमच्चङ्गरपाणिपल्लवकिरल्लोलम्बम् आलोल श्रीमच्चङ्गरपाणिपल्लवकिरल्लोलम्बम् आलोल श्रीमच्चङ्गरपाणिपल्लवकिरल्लोलम्बम् आलोल सन्मालालोल कलापकालकबरी सन्मालालोल कलापकालकबरी सन्मालालोल कलापकालकबरी सन्मालालोल कलापकालकबरी भारावली भासुरी कारुण्यामृत वारिराशिलहरी पीयूषवर्षावली कारुण्यामृत वारिराशिलहरी पीयूषवर्षावली कारुण्यामृत वारिराशिलहरी पीयूषवर्षावली बालाम्बां ललितालकामरुदिनं श्रीभद्रकाळीं भजे कारुण्यामृत वारिराशिलहरी पीयूषवर्षावली बालाम्बां ललितालकामरुदिनं श्रीभद्रकाळीं भजे मातङ्गश्रुतिभूषिणीं मधुधरीं वाणी सुधामोषिणीं मातङ्गश्रुतिभूषिणीं मधुधरीं वाणी सुधामोषिणीं मातङ्गश्रुतिभूषिणीं मधुधरीं वाणी सुधामोषिणीं भ्रूविक्षेप कटाक्षवीक्षण विसर्ग क्षेम संहारिणी भ्रूविक्षेप कटाक्षवीक्षण विसर्ग क्षेम संहारिणी मातङ्गी महिषासुर महिषासुर प्रमधिनी मातङ्गी महिषासुर प्रमधिनी माधुर्यधूर्याकरा श्रीकारोत्तर पाणि पङ्कजपुरी श्री